And for more on this, we are now being joined by Mark Merowitz from New York. He's a professor at the State University of New York Maritime College and political analyst. Welcome to World DNA, Mr. Merowitz.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Very well. Now, Jimmy Carter dedicated his life towards humanitarian work even after leaving office. Talk to us about his legacy and the contributions he has made to American politics and society.
As you described, it's a bit of a mixed bag. He had an extraordinary accomplishment by bringing out the Camp David Accords and peace between Egypt and Israel, and the momentous meeting between Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat. This was a world-shaking event. And of course, you mentioned his humanitarian work, for which he got the Nobel Prize. But the Iran hostage crisis, which you alluded to, was a definite huge setback for him, which really caused him to lose the election. I wanted to mention about that, because I personally know two of the hostages who were held in Iran. And the one thing they said about Carter, although he mismanaged the crisis, and I'll mention something about that, that he was enormously committed 24 hours a day to helping those hostages be released. And even after when they were released, only when President Reagan was inaugurated after Carter left from office in January 20th, 1981, he asked President Reagan if he could go to Germany and meet the hostages after they were released from Iran. This is how personally committed he was. I should mention also the mistake that he made, and that was the fact that he allowed the Shah to come to the United States for surgery. And I'm not saying about the humanitarian part of it, but that enraged the Iranians and really stimulated the hostage takeover, holding American diplomats for 444 days. 52 of our American diplomats
Mr. Merowitz. Right, Mr. Merowitz.
Absolutely. Now, he also earned the reputation of a better former president. If you could also remember, how did you remember him as somebody who was, also awarded the Nobel Peace Prize? How did you look at him? What do you remember of him as a former president?
Yes, I just want to add as an aside that my understanding is that what Carter did, because he was very concerned when he did the hostage rescue, and our soldiers were killed in the rescue of the Iranian hostages, he committed himself to provide scholarships for the children of those soldiers who were killed in that hostage rescue for the rest of their education. That is a very good man. And I think humanitarian work, as you said, after he left office, for example, the Habitat for Humanity, but it was also a very down-to-earth. You said he was a peanut farmer, but he grew up as a kid on a farm, a barefoot kid on a farm, and he was known to carry his own luggage and, of course, to go and build houses for the poor. So that is his legacy as humanitarian. And, it's an interesting thing where Biden says Carter lived a good life. Trump says he's a good man. All of the presidents, Obama, George W. Bush, all have accolades about President Carter. That tells you something about the man. His presidency was a mixed bag, but as a human being and humanitarian, he and Rosalind Carter were noted worldwide for their extraordinary humanity and compassion for people.
Right, Mr. Merowitz, now is perhaps not the time to reflect back on the mistakes and the challenges that he had, but on his legacy. And like you also mentioned, he was a humanitarian indeed. Just wanted to seek your final thoughts on what will Mr. Carter be remembered as more, his one-term stint as the U.S. president, or the 45 years that he spent contributing to America's growth?
Well, I'm going to be very candid. I think he'll be remembered for both. I think his presidency was, as I said, mixed and balanced between successes and failures. But I do think his work all those years after he left office will be the indelible mark for his legacy and will be remembered and honored for the humanitarian work that he did. No question about it. He's an American president, widely respected, and as I mentioned, by all political parties, found him to be a decent man in everyone who met with him always found him to be, and Rosalind too, very deeply faithful, decent, good people. And that is his legacy overall. Despite everything else political, he was a good man. And that's what counts.
Right, Mr. Merowitz. Thank you so much for joining us on World and sharing your thoughts with us.